These are my thoughts on the Timothy Bradley versus Juan Manuel Marquez fight. First, I'm going to give you my opinions on the both fighters. I'm a fan of Bradley. Since I saw him fight Nate Campbell, I've been a fan. I know it ended it with the headbutt, but I still thought he was looking pretty good in that fight. I like the way he bobs and weaves real low. He got speed. They say it seems like he has power, but he just doesn't have knockout power. I don't know. He just seems like a real good guy, you know. I mean, even when you're watching he doesn't have his sad story like most fighters do. But he does have his family life story where he has a family and everything. He's married to some girl, and he takes care of her kids. Plus, he got his own kid, and then he seems like a good dad and everything. He seems like a real good person. And I don't know. I've just been a fan of him. Even when people were saying he was a headbutter, I would defend him. And I mean, it's a lot of those headbutts weren't his fault. Some of them it almost looks like they were his fault, but he didn't do it on purpose. It's just the way he fights. He likes to bob and weave, move his head around a lot, and he's shorter than everybody, so they get the worst end of it because they get hit with the top of his head, whereas his head, top of his head, that's the hardest part of your body. Of course, he doesn't get hurt that bad, and some of the times they weren't even his fault. Some of the headbutts, but it looks like he's learning to like watch for the headbutts now. I felt he lost a close decision to Pacquiao, but I mean he did a lot better than most people would. Juan Manuel Marquez, on the other hand, I've never been a fan of him. He's a great boxer, amazing counterpuncher. He put out Pacquiao in his last fight. He's getting kind of swole, but I've never been a fan of him because of the things I've heard him say in interviews and stuff like that. I'm not Mexican American. I do have Spanish blood in me, also German and Portuguese and French and Comanche Indian and Navajo Indian. But none of my family members are from Mexico. I guess this used to be Mexico for some time, Texas. I grew up in the Hispanic neighborhoods though, in Dallas and Houston. Most of my friends growing up were Mexican Americans and Puerto Ricans, and I've had friends from every race, but I grew up in the Hispanic parts of town, so I'm used to being around a lot of Hispanics. You could probably hear it in my voice. I used to have a real ghetto way of talking, but I worked for as a sales rep for a company, and I had to change the way I talk, and now I'm just used to talking this way. I don't talk real ghetto. I don't use a lot of slang as much as I used to. But yeah, I grew up around Mexican Americans, mostly Mexican Americans, and Hispanic people from all over. Of course in Houston because it's like a big mixing pot down there. But in Dallas, mostly Mexican Americans. So I feel for them, and when I hear him say stuff about Mexican Americans, like when he was gonna fight, or he was gonna fight Juan Diaz, he said something like, he said I'm 100% Mexican, and he's only 50% Mexican. I mean, what is that supposed to mean? I think Juan Diaz was born in Mexico, but he lives in the United States or something. He moved here when he was young. I don't know, and I just thought it was kind of a weird thing to say, And then Marquez, after he lost a controversial decision to Pacquiao, he went in the locker room and said, "I fight for the real Mexicans, the ones that live in Mexico, are from Mexico." And I was like, "Wow." I was like, "Why do you want to say that, man? You know how many he probably got a lot of Mexican American fans, and he probably got fans from all over. But I mean, it sounds like he's hating on the Mexican Americans to me, and kind of it's kind of indicative to everything that I've been through in life. I've worked in a lot of places where around when I was a kid, I used to work in a lot of hard jobs, like when I was 18, 16, 17, 18, 19. I worked in doing real hard jobs as a machinist, working in a real hard labor jobs, construction. Before I started working on computers and stuff, and working in office buildings, I used to do hard labor work, and I worked around a lot of Hispanic people from Mexico. And it just reminds me of the way they used to treat me. They were just so, it's like they couldn't stand me because I didn't. For one thing, I don't speak good Spanish. I do speak some Spanish, but it's because I learned Spanish in high school, and it's mostly Spanish from Spain. Um, my grandfather was from Spain on my mother's side. They used to always do tricks to me. Like they used to put one time they put some kind of acid that you use for the time for the used to spray on the heads for the cars, and they put this acid on there to clean off the old dirt and grit off of the engines and stuff. And they put it in my soap, and when I sprayed my hands to clean my hands, all my hair fell off of my arms. And they were always trying to get me fired. They used to talk about me behind my back. They believed that I didn't speak any Spanish at all, and I would just sit there and listen to them talk about me right in front of me. So when I hear Marquez talk about Mexican Americans like that, it makes me feel like the way I used to be treated. Because I was an American, I was brown. A lot of my family members got blonde hair, white skin, and blue eyes, but not me. I got the Indian blood in me because both my sides of my family got Indian blood. My mom's has Navajo from her mother, and my father's mother is French and Comanche. And my dad's father is Spanish and Portuguese and German. And but I ended up with the dark skin. And so I when I walk down the street, everyone thinks I'm a Mexican. I've been called a beaner before. You can hate me because I'm not from Mexico. I mean, what the hell is that? So I've never been a fan of Marquez. I was a fan of Marquez, but until he fought Juan Diaz, and then I kind of like I've been kind of rooting against him all the time. Well, not rooting against him. I do recognize he has a lot of skills and stuff. Now let me get to who I think is gonna win the fight. I think Marquez will win this. It's not gonna look good because Marquez is used to people like coming after him and countering. When Marquez is to fight someone else who has a lot of defense, he doesn't look so good. Because I don't see Bradley chasing him down, especially if Bradley gets hit with some power. I could see him using more defensive moves. Bradley went all out in his last fight, but I just don't. I really hope he doesn't do that against Marquez. He has nothing to prove. He doesn't need to take all that damage like he did in his last fight. He needs to stick to what he does, that bobbing and weaving and sticking and moving. And I don't know. He's little. It's going to be hard for Marquez to hit him because the way he bends down a lot and he's low. It'll be interesting to see what Marquez does to solve his riddle. But I see Marquez maybe hurting Bradley. Maybe not stopping him. I don't think he'll stop him, but I can see him hurting him maybe. And then maybe Bradley going into defensive mode. I think Marquez will pull off a win in this one. I'm sure he'll go on to fight more fights. Probably another Pacquiao fight for the money. Bradley's another junior welterweight that moved up to welterweight. He could probably go. They could probably fight in the middle. I don't know what the weight class is going to be in this one, because both him and Marquez could probably fight at like 142 or 144, because they're both small welterweights. I think Marquez wins this one. I'll be rooting for Bradley on this one, but I don't know. Bradley seems like he just barely makes it sometimes. He's amazing. He's an amazing boxer. He's fast. He's strong. He doesn't have the best power, but he does have power. He has great movement, but he seems like he just barely survives, barely makes it sometimes. And he's been dropped before. He came back to win that. He's been dropped a lot of times, and he was dropped a lot of times in his last fight. He's been dropped other times too. I don't know. It's possible Marquez might drop him. Yeah, but I don't know if Marquez will be able to stop him. But I think Marquez pulls off a win in this one. That's it.